Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about 3 cars, 3 drivers, 3 presidents, and three presidents, and the correct way that Andrew Yang should drive this nation as its president when he is in the driver's seat. All right. So basically, there are 3 ways to drive a car. All right. I've been driving since I was 16 years old, which means that I have been driving for 33 years. And in those 33 years, from 3 different cars, 3 different drivers, I've learned that there are 3 ways to drive a car, okay? Those 3 ways are drive it like you stole it, drive it like you own it, and drive it like you cherish it, okay? And when you govern this nation as a president, you are going to drive the nation forward. And you're going to choose one of those 3 ways. You're going to drive it like you stole it. You're going to drive it like you own it. You're going to drive it like you cherish it, all right? So I'm going to explain these different ways. I'm going to give you the story of 3 cars, 3 drivers. I'm going to tell you how different presidents have mapped to those driving methods. And then I'm going to explain what the correct driving pattern is, that the correct driving method is. I think driving pattern works. Driving pattern that Andrew Yang should choose when he is president on January 20th, 2021. All right, let's talk about it. All right. So the way I know there are 3 ways to drive a car is I've met 3 specific men who have driven cars in these ways. All right. The first is Carlos. All right. Drive it like you stole it. So the year is 1993. I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. All right. I had just gotten a degree in political science from Millersville University. Carlos became a friend of mine. I didn't know him from college. I didn't know him from my gaming circles. I didn't know him from my church. And I didn't know him from where I worked, right? He came from a different vector. And me and him interacted about 2-3 times, and then we became friends, right? And whenever we would get together, I would ask him about his world. He would ask me about my world, right? And my stories were always me telling him about the Dungeons & Dragons stories that I was running for my players. I had a group of 5 players, and I would run a weekly game, right? And he would listen to this wrapped, and I was like, this is weird, like, you know, because he wasn't, like I said, he was not a gamer, right? And he would actually ask questions, which was fascinating to me, because nobody wanted to hear my Dungeons & Dragons stories at the time, right? Except my players, of course. And so I said, hey, you know, you should join my game. And he's like, well, how long is a Dungeons & Dragons game? And I was like, oh, well, it's 4 hours long. And he's like, that's a long time, right? He goes, each session. And I said, that's each session. He goes, well, how long is the game? And I was like, well, it never ends. You just keep telling the story, right, until you reach the end of the story. He's like, well, how long does that take? And I said, frequently, campaigns will run from 2 to 5 years. He's like, I'm not joining that. And I said, listen. Just join a 4-session story arc, all right? Come over on Friday night. You'll eat some pizza. You'll meet my friends. Just try it, right? So Carlos tried it, right? And I remember the first night, we went out to his car, all right? And Carlos had the coolest car I had ever seen to that point. Actually, is that true? He had one of the coolest cars I had ever seen. The guy across the street from me owned a GTO when I was a kid. Okay, Wraith Black GTO. Man, that thing was beautiful. All right. So Carlos, he had bought used a $6,000 Honda, it was a Honda Accord. It was a Honda Accord, I'm pretty sure. It was a Honda Accord, right? And basically he had dropped, I think, about 50 grand into that thing. So here's what he did. He put custom rims on it. He put racing seats in it. He had racing slicks on that thing. He had slammed it. It was a stance car, right? And he had done major modifications. I think he used spoon equipment on the engine. It was nuts, right? It was gorgeous, really, really nice car, right? So we had this conversation about the game, right? It's about midnight in Lancaster, and we got done talking, and we're walking out to his car. And he gets in his car and it's like, drive safe. And he looked up at me and he said, drive it like you stole it. And he pulled that car out. He zipped through like my apartment complex, right? And he actually drifted that car around the corner. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And again, Carlos was not from my world and I was not from his, right? I knew him from a different vector, right? Like it was just different. Carlos, definitely one of the coolest people I ever met. And actually, when I left Lancaster, I really never heard from him again. And it was, I miss Carlos. So here's the thing. Carlos did drive that car like he stole it, right? It was built to drive hard, right? And dangerously. And I remember, I was like, aren't you afraid of breaking it? He goes, of course I'm going to break this car. He goes, that's why I got my grocery getter. He had a second car when his primary car was down, right? He called it his grocery getter, which he would just drive like whenever his car was being improved or repaired, right? Or maintained. Man, that car was hot. All right. He drove it like he stole it. So Carlos drove that car like he stole it. All right. Second car is my car. I own today a Kia Spectra, a 2009 Kia Spectra XL. It is the sports model, right? It is a dusk blue. It is the last color of night just before the sun rises, right? I love this car, right? I dropped custom rims on my car in a very sad attempt to make my Kia Spectra XL look like Carlos's Honda Accord, right? Now, why did I buy a Kia Spectra? Well, I got 4 kids, right? This is my closest attempt to have a cool car. And it is a sports model. It has a spoiler. It has a sunroof. It's got custom rims, right? And it's got a great color, and I love it, right? Only one time in my entire life has anybody ever said my car looked cool. Once. I picked up my kids at elementary school, and the elementary school principal, I drove it up, and I really think it was generally, he goes, that's a nice car, right? So my car is cool to private school, suburban elementary school principals, right? Man, all right. So I drive my car like I own it. I care for that thing. My car has never been drifted. I have never had it more than 10 miles over the speed limit, right? And even then when I saw it, I was like, whoa, better slow down, right? I changed the oil on the regular. Carlos changed tires the way I change oil, right? Like, I care for that car, but it's also my daily driver. I drive it to work. Oh, by the way, it's got my Kia Spectra my Kia Spectra XL 2009, 10 years old now. I think it's got 160,000 miles on it. I have a bike rack, which I bought special, that goes over the spoiler and it arcs out beyond the car, right? And it looks like a shark's tail, right? It's awesome. My car is great. I love my car. I'm really proud of it. I own it, but I drive the heck out of it. I drive it everywhere. I drive it carefully. I drive it slowly. I drive it with caution. I drive it with care, but I drive it everywhere. I drive it in the rain. I drive it in the snow. It is my daily driver, right? And I drive it on bicycle trips. I drive it to work. I drive it to church, everywhere. It gets used a lot, right? Okay. I drive it like I own it, right? I care for it, but I also use it very, very frequently, right? And I don't give it a lot of rest, right? Drive it like you cherish it. I have a friend named Dennis. Dennis owns a 1969 Camaro. It is mint with a few modifications. Beautiful, beautiful car, okay? That car, I think he bought it for 30 grand, and I know he's dropped at least 70 into it. It's a $100,000 car, okay? That car today, he drives it like he cherishes it. He drives it nowhere. It is trailered to shows, okay? And the only time that car gets driven every year, right, is in about 3 or 4 parades that he is invited to drive the car in. Right? He drives it at 5 to 10 miles an hour. The car gets less than 50 miles a year. He waves at people, and there's 2 or 3 like people sitting on the back. It's never driven more than like 10 or 15 miles an hour, 5 to 10 miles an hour. He drives it like he cherishes it, and he does. He cherishes that car. It's not daily driven. It really doesn't even function as a car anymore. It functions as a showpiece. Okay, all right. We got three cars. We have Carlos's Honda Accord. Okay, from the 90s. We have my 2009 Kia Spectra XL. We have a 1969 Camaro. Okay, and you have Carlos, you have me, Scott Garibay, and you have Dennis. Right? Drive it like you stole it. Drive it like you own it. Drive it like you cherish it. Right? Now, how do these map to presidents? All right. Well, guess what? There has never been a president in the history of this country that drove this country like he stole it, except Donald Trump. Donald Trump is drifting this nation around corners. He is putting down skid marks, and he has slammed this country. It's Stan's car now, right? He's got race slicks on it, and he is putting down tracks of rubber everywhere he goes, right? Now, here's the thing. What he is doing looks super cool. I think the Democrats really need to start owning this. Donald Trump is crazy unpredictable, right? Unpredictable. And he is very comfortable with risk, right? It is incredibly dangerous for Democrats to not understand who and what Trump is, right? He drives this country in dangerous ways. When you drift around a corner, that looks super cool unless there's somebody there and you slam the back of your car into it, right? But see, that's the issue is, if there's nobody there and your car goes around the corner, that looks super dope, right? And that's the issue, right? I think Democrats are majorly making mistakes with Trump, pretending that some of the things he does is not ridiculously cool. They are, right? His unpredictability, more Democrats need it, right? One of the things that has to die, that we have to learn from Trump, right, is no longer can people know your answer to every question. Donald Trump killed that. Every politician before him for the last 50 years, you didn't need to ask them a question because you knew their answer before they said it. You have a whole bunch of candidates who are exactly the same. Beto O'Rourke, right? Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden. You don't need to ask them any questions. You know their answer before they say it, right? And that's just it. They're inside, Washington insiders. Their answers are calculated. They come from a script, right? Donald Trump killed that. That is drifting, right? That's driving like you stole it. And I have to say, some of it works, right? He's played hardball with countries on trade, and it is starting to help us, right? So overall, I did not vote for Trump. I hope we never have another president like Donald Trump. But the reality is, when you've seen a car drift, you got to admit it's cool, man. And that's the issue. Is we got to tell people who and what Trump is. Pretending that he's stupid, pretending that he's evil. These things aren't correct. He's neither one, right? He is unpredictable and he is dangerous, right? But sometimes that's cool, right? And that's the issue is we can't lie about him. We have to recognize the part, eat the meat, spit out the bones, right? We definitely need to get rid of Donald Trump, but he drives this country like he stole it, right? Which is insanely dangerous, but it's also insanely cool. You got to admit, right? Carlos was both. He was insanely dangerous and he was cool, right? Unlike me, all right? Next, who drove this country like they own it? Obama, right? Barack Obama, I voted for him twice. He drove this country like he owned it. He took us places. He used this country to go fun and useful places on the regular basis. And he cared for this nation, just the way I care for my Kia Spectra EXL. I don't get it washed every week, maybe once a month, right? But I take it everywhere and I care for it and I love it, right? And that's how Barack Obama drove this nation. He drove it like he owned it, right? Drive it like you cherish it, right? Franklin Pierce, right? Franklin Pierce was a very early on president. He did very little with this nation. He wanted the nation to be preserved. He wanted virtually nothing to change. He wanted to carefully preserve the nation. He didn't want the nation to go anywhere, and he drove it like he cherished it, right? The country was driven 50 miles a year under Franklin Pierce, right? How should Andrew Yang drive this country? Should he drive it like he stole it? Should he drive it like he owns it? Or should he drive it like he cherishes it? He should drive it like he owns it, right? He should care for it, but he should take the nation everywhere he goes. He should take it to new places, to fun places, right? And he should take it to necessary places. I have driven my car on bicycle trips to Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., what's in Maryland? Inner Harbor, right? Indiana, Cleveland, right? Indianapolis, all kinds of places, taking my car, bringing my bicycle, riding all over those cities. That was super fun. I also take my car to the grocery store, right? To get bottles of water and Bring back Gatorade and a million other things, right? And that's what Andrew Yang needs to do. He needs to drive this nation like he owns it. He cannot protect it too much. There needs to be risk for us to move forward. He cannot drive it like he cherishes it. And he can't drive it like he stole it. He cannot. You cannot drift this nation around corners, right? We're going to slam into another nation. And it's too dangerous, right? 3 ways to govern a nation. 3 ways to drive a nation. Drive it like you stole it. Drive it like you own it. Drive it like you cherish it, right? Those paths are Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Franklin Pierce, right? And the reality is, Andrew Yang needs to be more like Barack Obama than he needs to be like Donald Trump, and then he needs to be like Franklin Pierce. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below, right? How do you drive your car? Please let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.